Welcome everyone to ISIS Parenting Sleep Support Webinar and Chat. My name is Nancy Holtzman. I'm a mom and baby nurse educator, board certified lactation consultant, and board certified pediatric nurse. I'm the mom of 2 older teenagers, and I'm sitting here outside of Boston at ISIS Parenting's home office. Of course, we have 13 centers now spread across the United States, and we are online at IsisParenting.com. With me today, as she is most Tuesdays at 12 noon, is my friend and colleague, Meghan Casano. Meg is also a registered nurse and is the ISIS Parenting Sleep Team co-leader, and she is the mother of 4 beautiful daughters. And today is all Q&A day, so put your questions into the questions and answers box, and we will answer as many as we have time for. Meg, today, the first 2 questions are about early morning wakings. So I put this slide deck up since we had done a webinar in detail on this topic, but I thought maybe you could run through the topic briefly. The first question is from a mom who says, my little one turned a year old last Tuesday, and they've been doing ISIS sleep consults since she was 7 months old. She started sleeping through the night about a month ago, thanks to Teresa's help, which is one of our fabulous sleep team members. However, the child started waking up between 4 and 5 a.m. and now screams and cries out for longer than ever. And they're doing intervals. Is this a new toddler thing? How can we get her to go back to sleeping all night? She eats 3 meals plus a snack and nurses 5 times a day. Naps are regular, pretty good overall. Night sleep is usually 7:30 to 7:30 when she's out of the crib, and naps are from about 2 to 2.5 hours total. Oh, okay. So even though she's waking up at 4 or 5, they're doing intervals and hoping to try to keep her in the crib until 7:30. And then another question from a different mom is, because that child's a year old, this mom has a 2-year-old, and she wants to know, how can I get my 2-year-old to sleep past 5:30? It doesn't seem to matter what time he goes down. So, Meg, say hello, and can you run us through some of the basics on 2 early morning wake-ups?
Yeah, sure. So I wonder if these 2 moms could just type in for me what time their baby's last nap is ending compared to what time the bedtime is starting. So in other words, what's that last stretch of wakefulness of the day? Um, so when I have a question about a too early wake up, I'm looking at a few different things. Um, First, assess the situation. Is your child really waking too early, or just earlier than you prefer? If your child has an ultra early bedtime, like 6:30 or 7, then hey, by 5:30 in the morning, 11 hours of sleep, that's a darn good night. He might just be done. So just take a look quick here at totals, what we sort of see on average for your child's age range. And if your child is getting the average amount of sleep, now I realize this is on paper, so of course we're always looking at your child. Does he seem overtired? Does she seem overtired despite, what it says here? Then that might be a different story. But if your child is getting the right amount of sleep, then it might be a sleep dispersal issue. So, sometimes if your child's waking up from the last nap, and then your bedtime is too close to that last nap time, your baby's not rebuilding the sleep pressure that she needs. This happens a lot, particularly with toddlers, to sustain a full night's sleep. So let me just see. Christine says sleep for 4 or 5 hours. We put him down, wake up about 1 to eat, and up every 2 hours, then up for the day around 7. Oh, Nancy, did an answer come through about the nap, when the naps were ending? Did I miss that?
Yes. The mom with the 1-year-old, her child's nap ends no later than 3:30 p.m. and they're in the crib at
Okay, and that's
7:30.
about right. 4 hours of wakefulness. How about the 2.5-year-old?
Oh,
Sorry, guys, I
see.
can't see the question. Nancy's my reader. I know it's hard.
Sort of. um, the 2-year-old doesn't nap anymore at home and naps at the sitters from 1:30 to 3. If he naps, he goes down at
Okay.
9. If he doesn't nap,
Okay, that's about right, yeah. Okay.
if no nap, something
Okay.
else.
So both the babies sound in this case like their nap times compared to their bedtimes sound appropriate. So it doesn't sound like the expectation is for excessive sleep, in other words. So, then we're looking at when we're talking about an early morning, we're looking at, okay, a common cause, as those of you who listen every week know, early morning light. Light does not wake your baby, but if your child opens his eyes during a normal sleep cycle wake up, which is happening every 60 to 90 minutes in the last part of the night, and your baby's room is bright, it reinforces a wake up. So even though you might say, well, he fell asleep fine and there was some light, it's the same room at bedtime as it is in the morning, what's the big deal? Your baby's sleep pressure and sleep hormones, which are much higher at bedtime, can sort of trump that light cue that's coming in. That's kind of a helpful way to think about it. But in the morning, when sleep pressure is low, light will reinforce the wake up, cause it to continue. And so, then I have parents say, well, but his room is pitch dark. He wakes up at 5:30 and his room is pitch dark. And so my next question is, okay, well, then what comes next? And they might say, well, then we go out into the living room to play. So then I'm saying, okay, so even though his room is dark, then his little body is coming out into the light, and that's what's reinforcing the wake up time. So you just take a look. If your baby's biological clock is being reinforced with light in any way too early, you've got to reverse that. And so you keep your baby in the dark until your desired wake up time, and you allow at least 3 days to start the body clock shifting before you would actually expect sleep to occur. Okay, so in other words, the morning you tack up blackout shades or get some sort of room darkening towel or a blind or something that you're going to put up over your window, it's not like the next morning your child's all of a sudden going to sleep until 7:30. It does take a few days for the body clock to reset. Okay, so look at sleep environment. Is anything waking your child? Any noises? That's the time of morning when your child is very susceptible to being awakened by noise. So make sure you've got some sort of white noise machine that can run constantly. And so we're also looking at, I know we've got some, these are all the kinds of things that we talked about in this early morning wake up, but I want to get to other questions too. So if you feel like it's really not environmental and it's really not schedule, then you might be left with, okay, well, does your baby know how to get herself to sleep at bedtime first when it's kind of easy? If you've been rocking or holding or nursing or assisting your baby to sleep at bedtime, then she might be looking to repeat that at 5 a.m. and might be having trouble doing that when, again, the sleep pressure is lower. So you would want to make sure that your baby does know how to go back to sleep on his own in the early morning. And then, if you said, well, it's really, I've addressed the environment, it's perfect. I've addressed the schedule. I know that it's right for his age. Then you might be left with it's a behavioral, like a habitual wake up. And so in that situation, this mom mentioned she was doing some intervals. That's a type of intervention that some parents do to help their child during the process or during the time it's taking their child to fall back asleep in the morning. That certainly can work when done under the right circumstances, right timing, right environment, but you just want to be aware that morning sleep tends to take longer to fix. Usually it's at least a 5 to 10 day fix, so it's a little different than bedtime. Your bedtime you might have seen come together quite quickly in just 3 to 5 nights. Morning, you might just have to stick with it a bit longer. Okay, and then finally, take a look and see if your child has a hunger cue, just like the light cue in the morning. The circadian rhythm can also cue your child to, rouse more fully at that early time due to a habitual hunger, like a bottle or a feeding or a snack. And so you might have to reduce some of those feedings, or you might start delaying them until you get to your more target wake up time. Okay, Nancy, so go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So we have about 42 sets of
Oh, wow.
moms with twins in the room, and I think many people may know that Meg herself is a twin, and we have 2 specialists members of the sleep team that specialize in working with families that have twins and multiples. Meg is one of them. And then who's our other
Yeah,
multiple
Jessica.
specialist? Does she
Jessica
have
has
twins
twins.
herself? Jessica.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a question from Mama with twins. And I think they're about 8 months old, but I pasted the questions out of the question box, so now I can't remember exactly who it was. But she says, I didn't do so well during the last, quote, sleep regression, unquote, and taught my guys to nurse to sleep. I have been working hard at trading down sleep associations, and they are back to being awesome night sleepers, yay, and only nurse occasionally at night. But I haven't done as well trading down during nap time. Oh, we all know how much harder nap time is. It feels like such a fight for a 50 to 60-minute nap. I have decided I'm okay with them nursing to sleep for nap time, at least for now. But I'm concerned with the snacking habit it's developing. Nursing to sleep only takes 3 to 4 minutes. Is this bad? No, of course not. If it works for you and it's safe,
Yeah.
then hey. My guess is when you're there, they're going to nurse to sleep. When you're not there, they're going to have to figure out something else.
totally agree.
What do you think, Meg?
Day sleep is, babies are really good at separating their day sleep from their night sleep. So you don't feel like if you're nursing to sleep during the day, you're going to undo all the hard work you've been doing at night. It's a different type of sleep, and babies are really good at compartmentalizing that. If it's causing you less stress and your babies are sleeping, it's fine. Certainly if you're ever at a point where you're thinking about, is this maintainable long term? I don't know. I mean, I think that's a decision that you have to make. But for now, if everybody's happy and everybody's well rested, I have no problem with it.
I'm with you. Here's another one that's an easy one. My 6-month-old boy wakes up in the middle of the night and plays contently
Nancy, did I just lose
in
you?
his crib for an hour or so every night. I don't walk in and check on him since he isn't making noise, but it's certainly fun to watch him on the monitor. Normal behavior, or am I raising a nocturnal little owl?
Nancy, for some reason, that part of that question cut out. Do you mind reading it again for me?
Sure. Basically, this mom has a 6-month-old who's getting up consistently every night. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Meg, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
6-month-old is waking up consistently every night. 6-month-old is waking up consistently every night. I'm not sure if it's the same time every night, but playing in the crib for an hour happily before going back to sleep. Mom doesn't sound like she's asking, do I need to do something about this? Because I would say, oh, okay. I think you can hear me now. I'm not sure what we had going on there. And it looks like we lost Meg. Let's see. There she is. Hold on. Meg will come back in a minute, maybe. Hi, Meg. Are you there? Sorry, my screen. Never mind. It's a boring story. It's just technology, etc. Okay.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Meg, speak up. Get closer to your mic. Meg's on vacation this week. You can see this is what vacation is like, right? So she's on a different computer, and who the heck knows? Okay, sorry about that interruption. We were talking about a 6-month-old who wakes up in the middle of the night and plays happily for an hour, and mom is just curious about why. She's not asking, do I need to do something about it? And she's not going to him. She's letting him play happily until he falls back asleep. He's doing it every night for about an hour. What do you think is going on, Meg?
Oh, okay. I'm wondering if this is like in the middle of the night, around 1 or 2 in the morning. The sleep hormones kind of taper, not happening at the same time every night. Okay. I mean, they're kind of like in the middle of the night, there's a time period when the sleep hormones kind of drop a little bit. And, it could be just that your baby's experiencing that sensation of it being a little bit harder to fall back asleep, but he's kind of mellow or knows how to put himself back to sleep. So he's hanging out waiting, which is great. Sometimes that can be caused due to timing. If you want to try to close that hole, it might be that, again, bedtime is too close to the last nap time. It's more often the case. I mean, certainly it could be a case that he's overtired and he does need an earlier bedtime. Um, but a lot of times, if you're approaching a transition age and your child is still, for example, taking 3 naps, sometimes they need a bit later bedtime temporarily to keep that night sleep nice and consolidated. And then when the third nap drops, the night lengthens again. That's just an example. But I would sort of play around with bedtime a little bit, try 20 minutes later for a few nights, see if that helps. 10 to 12 hours in the crib at night. That's a pretty big difference. You want to have a 30-minute bedtime window and a 30-minute wake time window, so that your night sleep is pretty stable each night. And take a look, of course, at the sleep environment there in the middle of the night as well. See if there's anything that could be triggering a more thorough wake up. Is anything changing in his environment? Is anything turning off? Is anything turning on? The body temperature has to drop at different times during the night to maintain sleep. So make sure your baby's not overheating or overdressed for the summer weather. A lot of things I can think of. Should you wake him in the mornings? Yeah. The only time you wake your baby is to help protect your baby's circadian rhythm, which functions best with regularity. So you kind of give yourself a half-hour window, actually say out loud, what's my target wake-up time? Taking into consideration what's appropriate for his age. Yeah, Nancy's got the sleep and nap patterns webinar recorded here so that you can take a look at some of the time that babies are typically sleeping. And so, yeah, if your baby is tending to oversleep in the morning, that would be the only time you'd awaken him to help protect or preserve the circadian rhythm and to keep those bed and wake times nice and regular. That will help with what your baby's doing in the overnight as well.
Okay.
Okay, so schedule, environment, those are the big things to look at.
Okay. I put this one up because the next 3 questions all pertain to this age group, and I thought you could, just kind of hit on the highlights of this webinar while we address their questions. So, and actually, I'll tie in a 4th question too. The 4th question is a loaded question, a question of which there is no answer. The question is, oh wait, there's 2 questions like that. One question the mom asks, at what age do I wean my baby from nursing at night? Then another mom says, I still nurse my 13-month-old to sleep every night, and before each nap, friends and family are being quite critical and say he will never learn to sleep on his own. I have no issues right now with our situation. It's nice to have the time with him. Is it ever too late to trade down the sleep association? Should I set a deadline to stop nursing to sleep? Then here's a question from another mom who says, my 14-month-old still nurses once at night consistently. He will typically sleep for about 9 hours, nurse, then go back down to sleep for another 3 hours or so. How can we transition him out of that nighttime nurse? And then a mom says, I recently stopped nursing my 15-month-old back to sleep at night. But how can we get him to soothe himself back to sleep when he wakes through the night? We have had 2 nights of sleeping through the night in almost 15 months. Whew. And then finally, our 10-month-old twin boys are having a hard time falling asleep at night. They used to sleep through the night. Then it was sometimes, we think, due to teething. Now they're sleeping through the night, but it's near impossible to get them to go to sleep at night. We've tried to move their bedtime later, but some nights it's even later still before they go to sleep. Naps are tough. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they fight naps. And they've recently started to sit and stand in their cribs. She says, I think that's one of the reasons he refuses to go to sleep. He will just stand up and holler. Okay, so obviously, Meg, I don't expect you to answer all of those, but I think you get the gist of the questions. People are asking about, nursing to sleep when it's working for you, when it's not working for you, transitions from that, difficulty falling asleep, and so on. What say you, Meg?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to nighttime feedings, especially for nursing parents who, if you're wanting to keep your supply up, you're concerned about that, maybe you're away from your baby a lot during the day. I've got no problem with it if it's enjoyable to you and your baby is getting nice long stretches of consolidated sleep and everybody's happy with the situation. I really have no problem with it. I see, obviously, I work with families who are having a problem. So I'm not talking to all the families who aren't having a problem necessarily. I mean, I guess if you're asking for, or wondering, well, how is this going to end? Like, is this going to start creating lots of extra wake ups? It could. A lot of times, as babies get close to age 1, and I realize a couple of these babies are past age 1 already, that early morning nurse, like at 4:30 or 5, you might bring your baby into bed and do some bed sharing. A lot of families do that. Um, a lot of times that starts to then turn into baby wanting to have playtime, let's crawl around mom, or it doesn't turn into that soothing settling back to sleep that it used to for the first year. So sometimes if you see that start to happen where that early morning breastfeeding just isn't serving the purpose, and at that age, if you have a healthy baby, your baby doesn't need to eat at that time anymore. So, if you get to the point where it's just not working, then, that would be the time to maybe consider making a change. But if you're happy, your baby's well rested, getting long stretches of consolidated sleep, I have no problem with it. Um, if when you do feel like the time has come or it's getting close to think about making a change, you want to remember that feedings, calorie feedings, those feedings where your baby is sucking, swallowing, actually getting milk and calories, those feedings you do need to reduce slowly. You wouldn't want to try to stop them cold turkey. And so you have to make sure that you're reducing number of minutes nursed. Some parents, some moms can do that, over the course of just several nights, about 5 nights or so. Some moms prefer to sort of spend several weeks or so just really gradually reducing the amount of time their baby spends nursing, transferring those calories into the first morning feed. Maybe baby's getting an extra snack during the day. So moving those calories out of the night. And then what you would be left with, I think, is maybe what the mom of twins is experiencing. Okay, now you're left with that sort of more of the psychological attachment to the nursing, that comfort, snuggle, sucking to soothe, where even though your baby doesn't actually need those calories overnight, he misses that comfort and isn't quite sure what else to do. And so if that's where you're left, or if you feel like that's where you're heading soon, you'll want to think about teaching your baby to fall asleep in a new way. How you do this, can be greatly varied, family to family, and this is where, sometimes a personalized sleep consult can help. Certainly, you might want to check out our Trading Down Sleep Associations webinar, which is gentle transitioning. You're sort of leveling down, or trading down your sleep association from, for example, nursing to rocking to cribside soothing to sitting by the crib. That's just an example. In order to on the path to independent sleep. Many families choose an in-room strategy, such as trading down sleep associations. There are other in-room strategies where your baby would never be alone during a time where you're making a transition. But there are out-of-room strategies as well for parents who feel like they want a faster approach. So a nice thing about an ISIS sleep consult is that we are not one size fits all. We never say there's only one way to do this. We take into consideration your family's needs. So, Nancy, in that list of questions that you read, what else was I missing in there?
A mom who is having difficulty having, I don't know if it's both of her twins, but they're not going to sleep well, even though she's tried changing the bedtime a little bit later and so on.
Okay.
So
Um,
maybe they need
yeah,
to
and
consider their bedtime routine.
yeah, bedtime routine could be a factor. This was the mom whose twins were 10.5 months.
Right. So maybe
I think
final
she
nap
said,
of the day and bedtime
yeah.
routine.
Yeah, I'd be curious, 10.5 months with twins. I'm guessing they were a little bit premature, so maybe adjusting for that and wondering if they're in a nap transition stage where they've hung on to a third nap too long, or perhaps they transitioned down to two naps fairly recently and there's some issue with the last nap to bedtime ratio. Um, I think her idea, her instinct of maybe trying the later bedtime could be about right. Sometimes it's helpful if track your baby's achievable sleep time for a few days. What time is your baby actually falling asleep? And sort of skip to that time for a few nights. Meet your baby right where they meet your babies where they are. Get them used to falling asleep quickly and easily at the time they have been falling asleep. And then you can back them earlier as you need to. It could also be, like Nancy alluded to, it could be a bedtime routine issue as they're getting a little older, more aware. Sometimes with twins, it can be like rush, 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 just pop them in the crib. Maybe a little more time spent, a little more transition time and winding down time could be helpful. Again, I don't know, Nancy, it's hard sometimes because I don't know all the little
Right.
nuances of these babies.
That's okay. All right, I have two more questions. One's a quick one, and then one's a medium one, and then I think we'll probably wrap up. The quick question is from a mom who wants to know, when do I need to wean from the white noise machine?
Okay. There's no set age, really. Um, the white noise is sleep protecting. It's not sleep inducing, so it doesn't make your baby sleep. It doesn't make your baby be a better sleeper, but it helps mask environmental noises that could awaken your baby during a light sleep state. And so, depending on where you live, your white noise machine might be very helpful for years. If you are uncomfortable with that, or you feel like you kind of, you'd like to phase it out at some point, that's fine. Wait until your baby is sleeping really well, so you're confident in your baby's ability to sleep well through, either through the night or consolidated between feedings. And then you can start to phase it out slowly by turning down the volume or moving it farther and farther away from your baby and out the room. If your baby starts to wake up, particularly in the early morning, it might be due to environmental noise that you have going on where you live. Some people say, "Oh, well, your baby should just learn to sleep through that." We personally feel that sure, your baby could learn to go back to sleep after being awakened from a noise, but the truth is that's a sleep disruption. We'd prefer that that didn't happen in the first place, and that's why we do recommend the white noise. So, um, you know, there's no set age. You can do it when you feel comfortable by just weaning, moving it farther away or turning down the volume.
Yes, thank you. I agree. And we hear a lot from people who say that they still find the white noise machine helpful in certain situations. I know when I travel to a particular vacation destination that we go to most winters in Florida, I bring the white noise machine then because the hotel is can be noisy in the hallway and it wakes me up. And so I use the white noise machine when I go away on vacation there when I don't ever use it at home. So I don't think it's a bad sleep association or a sleep crutch for a baby to have at all. Okay, final
Okay.
question. My 7-month-old is a great napper at home. Well, give her a gold star because that's not an easy thing. At home, the child goes down awake, puts herself to sleep, sleep sack, white noise, and sleeps for about 90 minutes twice a day, for 90 minutes to 2 hours twice a day. But at childcare, they have difficulty getting her down for a nap, and she only takes two 30-minute naps. They have a separate sleep area in the same room, but to the side where it's darker and quieter for all the cribs. They use white noise and they have the same sleep sack as at home. What can mom suggest that might help the child care provider increase the nap time?
How old is the baby, Nancy?
7 months.
7 months. Okay. It's interesting because the fact that baby naps well at home, did this mom say how many days a week baby's in daycare?
She did not say.
Okay. Sometimes babies nap great at home after a week of daycare because they're sort of playing catch up. And sometimes babies nap great at home because they know how to be great nappers, and it's just that their environment in daycare doesn't support the great napper that they can be. So you might just sort of figure that out. Just sort of ask yourself, well, are the great naps at home happening because she really truly is a great napper and she knows how to get herself to sleep and stay asleep for more than one sleep cycle? Or is it because she's a little tired from her week and playing catch up? If she does know how to fall asleep and put sleep cycles together during the day, then it probably is related more to the daycare environment, which there's only so much you can do. It sounds like, if there may not be a separate napping room. And so even though it might be a quieter, darker corner, there might still be other activities going on in the room that might make that difficult to stay asleep. Because remember, your baby's going to pop up after a sleep cycle and do a little environmental check. And if it's a little noisy or stimulating or bright in another area of the room, that might trigger a more full wake up, and then there goes the nap. If you know your baby's daytime sleep cycle length, and they do tend to be pretty exact, like for example, if she's popping up at the 30-minute mark, you might see if one of the daycare providers can sneak over to the side of her crib at the 28 or 29-minute mark and see if they can soothe her through to the next sleep cycle, maybe replacing a pacifier if she's using that, maybe a heavy hand on her bum or her tummy and a gentle jiggle, just to kind of soothe her through to the next one before she has that full wake up to begin with. Um, Other than here, like Nancy's posting this list for you, the white noise, the darkening shades, you've got the familiar items. Try to stick to the same timing that you're doing at home. That's going to help too, keeping the sleep pressure, that feeling of sleepiness consistent for her. Sometimes babies have a little mini snooze on the way to daycare, and that sort of sabotages their sleep pressure going into the nap and can shorten the nap. So it sounds like you are doing as many things as you can to help. And sometimes it's not until babies transition so that they're all on the same schedule and the whole room shuts down from about 12:30 to 2:30 or 1 to 3 that babies really start taking a nice, long, predictable nap at daycare. That's sometimes that is just the way it goes.
Yep. So it's reality. Um, all right. I think we should wrap up. Thank you for taking the time out of your so-called vacation to come and answer sleep questions for us this week. Next week, I think we are going to talk about sleep products. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. So things that we love, like the Merlin and the Woombie and the SleepMate white noise machine and the Wubbanub, and things that are questionable, and things that are helpful, like maybe a bedside co-sleeper if you have a newborn, and so on. So let us know your favorite sleep products, and we'll share some of ours. And Meg, have a wonderful remainder of your vacation. And
Thank you.
people that would like some personalized assistance with sleep, there was a mom, I can't remember who it was, who said that her child has only slept through the night like 3 times in 15 months. We're here. We can help you. We have a long list of webinars we can suggest based on various situations and topics, but we can get right to the meat of the matter during a phone conversation and come up with information and a plan that's going to really feel okay for you. Not a one-size-fits-all approach, not sleep training, not something that is not going to fit well with your parenting style or your unique situation. So if you have room sharing, if you have siblings, if you are attachment parenting, if you're nursing numerous times at night, we can work with all of these things to come up with improving sleep for your child and improving sleep for you. That's what we're about, sleep support. Meg, anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I agree. That's exactly right.
Okay, good. We're on the same page, as always. Everybody have a wonderful week. On Thursday, it's our breastfeeding and pumping webinar. That's at 12 noon Eastern time, and it's all Q&A again this week because I'm working on another big project and I don't have time to come up with mini classes. So come back with your come back with your breastfeeding and pumping questions on Thursday. Come back next Tuesday for sleep and help spread the word to your friends and moms groups and things online as well. Have a wonderful week and happy nurturing, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nancy.